The Los Angeles County Courthouse was a furnace of murmurs that morning, spectators whispering, reporters scribbling, and the smell of stale coffee mixing with old marble. Judge Walter Grayson leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers lazily on the polished wood. To him it was just another day, another defendant. Another guilty plea waiting to be signed and sealed before his 2 o'clock golf game. But the young man standing at the defendant's table didn't fit neatly into that script. 19-year-old Jalen Dawson stood tall beside the heavy oak table, hands in his pockets, his chin tilted upward in quiet defiance. The courtroom light caught the edge of his jaw, calm but sharp. He looked like someone who belonged anywhere but here. Judge Grayson glanced down over his glasses. "You think you're some kind of legal expert?" he said, his voice oozing with condescension. "This isn't a debate club, kid." Laughter rippled across the room, from the bailiff, the stenographer, even the prosecutor. But Jalen didn't flinch. He had heard worse. He wasn't laughing because he knew something they didn't. He wasn't here to plead. He was here to fight. While other kids memorized basketball stats, Jalen memorized case law. While his friends stayed up gaming, he stayed up watching court trials online. His mother, Denise Dawson, a paralegal for over 2 decades, had raised him on the language of the law, the stories of corruption, the shortcuts, the quiet injustices no one talked about. By 14, Jalen could dissect a trial transcript like a surgeon. He never thought he'd need to use that knowledge for himself. Now, facing charges of grand theft auto and resisting arrest, Jalen stood in the one place he had studied all his life, but from the wrong side of the courtroom. The prosecutor, Mitchell Carrington, rose from his seat with the smug confidence of a man who'd already written the ending. His tailored suit caught the light as he addressed the court. "Your Honor, the state will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendant, Jalen Dawson, was caught red-handed in a stolen 2022 Audi A6. Fingerprints on the steering wheel. Witness testimony. A clean arrest." "The evidence," he said with a grin, "speaks for itself." The audience murmured approvingly. It sounded airtight. Even Judge Grayson seemed ready to close the file. Then he made his first mistake. "Let's make this quick," Grayson sighed, flipping the case folder. "I have a golf game at 2. The crowd chuckled again. But Jalen smiled, just barely. Because in that moment, the judge had exposed what Jalen already suspected. This wasn't about justice. It was about convenience. When the judge called for the defense, Jalen's public defender, Lisa Thornton, rose nervously. She had barely spoken 3 words all morning. Jalen gently placed a hand on her arm, a silent signal. Then, in a calm, unwavering tone, he said, "Your Honor, I'll be representing myself." The room fell silent. Even Carrington blinked, caught off guard. Then came the chuckles again, sarcastic, dismissive. "This should be interesting," the prosecutor muttered. But no one laughed when Jalen started speaking. "Your Honor," Jalen began, "before I continue, I'd like to confirm something with the prosecution." Carrington crossed his arms. "Go ahead. You said Officer Daniel Ruiz personally saw me behind the wheel before my arrest, correct?" "That's right," Carrington replied. "And that statement is in his official report." "Of course it is." Jalen took a slow breath. "Then I move to dismiss that testimony." The judge frowned. "On what grounds?" "Because Officer Ruiz wasn't even on duty when the chase began." The gallery erupted into murmurs. Carrington blinked, visibly thrown. "What are you talking about?" "If the court allows," Jalen said calmly, "I'd like to verify Officer Ruiz's GPS logs from that night. If his report is truthful, the data will match." But he let the silence stretch. "I have a feeling it won't." Now everyone was watching Carrington. The prosecutor hesitated, too long. The jury noticed. So did Grayson. Finally, the judge sighed. "Counselor, any objections?" Carrington's jaw clenched. "No objections, Your Honor." For the first time that morning, the courtroom went quiet. Not the mocking kind of silence, but the kind that comes before a storm. Carrington scrambled for control. Regardless, the defendant's fingerprints were found on the steering wheel of the stolen vehicle. Jalen nodded. "That's true. But let's talk about that." He turned to the jury. His voice was steady, his words precise. "The prosecution wants you to believe that fingerprints mean guilt. But let's say you try on a jacket at a store, touch it, and walk away. Later someone steals it. Would your fingerprints mean you stole it?" The jurors exchanged glances. Someone in the gallery murmured in agreement. Jalen pressed forward. That car was parked outside a 7-Eleven. I was there with friends. I leaned on it. The door was unlocked, so I opened it. Dumb? Maybe. Illegal? No, I didn't steal the car. I didn't drive it. I didn't even move it. Then he asked the question that made the air go still. Does touching something make you a criminal? Carrington's confidence was crumbling. And since we're talking evidence, Jalen continued, was the forensic specialist who processed those fingerprints subpoenaed to testify? The judge looked at Carrington. He hesitated again. No, Jalen tilted his head. So the state wants to convict me based on forensic evidence, but didn't bother to bring in the person who analyzed it? No cross-examination? No confirmation of chain of custody? Convenient. Grayson's face tightened. He wasn't amused anymore. Jalen took a deep breath and delivered his final blow. Your Honor, I'd like to submit an official statement from the vehicle's owner, Mr. Raymond Whitaker. The judge frowned. The owner? Yes, sir. Jalen lifted a document from his folder. A statement that, for some reason, the prosecution failed to include. Carrington stiffened. Jalen began to read aloud. I left my car running when I went into the gas station. Some kid must have jumped in and driven off, but it wasn't the guy they arrested. The kid was white. The gallery gasped. Jalen held up the report. That's from the original police file. The one Carrington conveniently ignored. I don't even match the description of the suspect. Carrington tried to interject, stammering, Your Honor, this is irrelevant. But Jalen didn't let him finish. I was arrested blocks away from where that car was found, walking home with snacks. I wasn't near the car. The only thing that put me here today was bad police work and bias. Silence. The weight of his words filled the courtroom like thunder after lightning. Grayson rubbed his temple, his confidence fading. The case had collapsed, and everyone knew it. He looked to Carrington. Anything further? The prosecutor's voice was barely a whisper. No, Your Honor. Grayson stared at Jalen, then at the jury. His gavel struck wood. Case dismissed. The courtroom exploded in sound. Shock, disbelief, applause, whispers. Reporters scribbled furiously. Jalen didn't move right away. He stood still, breathing, feeling the weight of justice shift around him. As he left the courtroom, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. How does it feel to outsmart a prosecutor? What's next for you? He ignored them. This wasn't about pride. It was about truth. Outside, his mother was waiting. She folded her arms, her face unreadable. Then she sighed, shaking her head. Boy, you scared me half to death. Jalen smiled. Had to take a risk, Ma. She hugged him tightly, whispering, You always were the stubborn one. Across the street, Judge Grayson stood beside his car, watching. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something quieter, respect, maybe even guilt. He'd seen hundreds of cases like this, but this one would stay with him, because Jalen Dawson hadn't just defended himself. He'd forced the system to look in the mirror, and for once the system blinked first. That day, a spark was lit. Jalen knew he wouldn't stop here. Next time he stood in a courtroom, he wouldn't be the defendant. He'd be the attorney. And when that day came, he wouldn't be fighting just for himself. He'd be fighting for everyone who never got the chance.